Hey guys, we are back. It's Erin here. I'm doing something new and different. I'm recording the intro on YouTube Live. So if you're watching over there, just a heads up, the whole episode, this interview with Dr. Cristin Zaimes, is going to be live tomorrow. So make sure you subscribe to the Functional Nutrition Podcast and you will get the whole episode. So I'm here with my friend, Dr. Cristin Zaimes. Like I said, she is a physical therapist who specializes in pelvic floor health, and she owns Oceanside Physical Therapy in Stratham, New Hampshire. We've had her on the show before. It was an awesome conversation, so definitely go check out that episode if you haven't listened to it already. Her and I are pretty good friends. We talk a lot about our work and our clients and patients, and she's in my healthcare team. What I mean by that is I refer a lot of my clients out to her, but also she's in my healthcare team in that she is one of my providers and she has helped me tremendously. And I've talked about that a lot. Something that we were talking about recently was the whole Selma Blair thing that came out. So I don't know if you guys saw that, but Selma Blair sat down with Robin Roberts on Good Morning America, and it kind of went viral. So it was all over Facebook and the World Wide Web. And her story, I mean, literally moved me to tears, and probably a lot of other women. She, just to kind of throw it out there in a nutshell, after she had her son, she was feeling really bad. And she kept going to her doctors over and over again, saying, I feel really bad. Something's not right. Something's going on in my body, and I don't know what it is, but I know it's not right. And she was not heard. She was not listened to. She was misdiagnosed. She kept being sent away, away, away. This went on for 7 years. And it wasn't until she fell down in front of a doctor that somebody took her seriously and actually listened to the words that she was saying. But by then, it was too late. She had a pretty serious case of MS. And so on the video, you can see her. She struggles to talk. She struggles to move. She walks with a cane. This is like a pretty hard hitting case of MS. And we just have to wonder, we have to question what would have happened if somebody had listened to her 7 years ago and taken the words she was saying at face value. Listening to that and listening to her speak about this was like watching an allegory of our healthcare system, because women aren't being heard. In fact, I'm not even sure we're being listened to. There is paternalism, there's male-centeredness, and even misogyny in healthcare. Now, I've experienced it firsthand. You guys have heard my story before. I spent a lot of my life talking to doctors saying like, hey, something's wrong here, and simply not being paid attention to. And there's a lot of stats to back this up. So this isn't just my experience. This isn't Selma's experience. This is all of our experience. Physicians are more likely to interpret men's symptoms as biological, whereas they see women's symptoms as a result of mental illness instead of physical illness. Women are 7 times more likely to be discharged and misdiagnosed while having a heart attack, like a freaking heart attack. Men are treated more quickly in ERs. Men are sent to intensive care units more quickly and more frequently. And medical professionals spend more time with male patients than female patients who have the same exact symptoms. Women are up to 25% less likely to be prescribed painkillers when they describe the same symptoms of abdominal pain as men. So basically, what's happening here, all these stats back this up, is that men's complaints are seen as real, whereas women's complaints, not so much. And when we start to layer in intersectionality and we compare Black women to white women, it actually gets a lot worse. A Black woman in the US has worse health outcomes, just kind of across the board throughout her lifespan, than a white woman. And this is including, but certainly not limited to, being 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy or childbirth related causes than white women. So what happens is that women, we go into our doctor's office and we report real physical problems or real physical pain that we're experiencing. And what happens is that we're frequently dismissed, we're written off, or there's comments thrown our way that are belittling or demeaning. And we're made to feel like we're overreacting, or we're attention seeking, or we're too dramatic, or we're complaining. In fact, I saw my chart a couple of years ago by accident, and that's exactly how it was listed, as my complaints. And when we think about things this way, it starts to make us feel kind of embarrassed, and we start to feel really ashamed about this. Like this shouldn't be happening. And hey, maybe it actually is all in my head. We start to internalize that belief. This is all in my head. This isn't really happening. Maybe I'm crazy. I've certainly had plenty of clients whose doctors had actually said those words to them. For example, your IBS is all in your head. That has happened, that has been spoken. What happens often is that women are offered antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds, which kind of reinforces this idea that, like, this isn't a physical problem, this is just a problem up here. And so when this happens, we don't want to go back to the doctors. When something's wrong, when we know something's wrong in our body, we don't want to go back to the doctors because we know that we won't be taken seriously, and we're just too embarrassed. We internalize that stereotype of the over emotional melodramatic woman, and none of us want to be seen that way. So we start to second guess ourselves, and this can delay care, right? I'm sure Selma Blair, after a few years, was like, well, maybe I'll just kind of stay tight-lipped about this. Maybe I shouldn't go back to my doctors because I'm embarrassed. And on top of all that, there is real gender disparity in medical research that not really many people are aware of. So historically, most biomedical research comes from male studies. So we're looking at men's bodies and how men respond to things. And for a long, long, long time, this is just now starting to change. But for most of the time, the medical community has equated normal with male. So we're basically overlooking 50% of the population. And my thought is like, hey, just because you don't understand female anatomy, or just because you don't understand female hormone cycles, just because there's not enough research to back that up, doesn't make these problems any less real. So Cristin, I know as a physical therapist who does specialize in women's health, you hear a lot of these stories. I mean, we've talked about it before. And I know that you see a lot of these chronic pain female patterns, whether it's vulvodynia or interstitial cystitis, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, which are all these syndromes that are basically a collection of symptoms. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts if you see any interplay between sexism in healthcare and these syndromes or chronic pain.